Thank you very much. Let me start. Today is a day, Farmers' Day. There is a book actually he wrote, Economic Nightmare of India. If you have not seen that, you should look at that. We owe also something important who gave us the slogan of Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. That is Shastri Ji, who also came from those roots. But something happened after that. When Mr. Vajpayee became the Prime Minister, he extended that slogan, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, to Jai Vigyan. The idea was that society has to be science-led. Actually, Prime Minister Modi has extended that slogan further. I don't know how many of you are aware. He said, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Gyan, Jai Anusandhan. Anusandhan is research and innovation. So it gives you an idea that the future of this country will be decided by what we do in terms of science and innovation. Now, these slogans are not going to feed us, but they are going to inspire us for something. And let me go back to the biggest achievement of Indian agriculture and Indian farmers, namely the Green Revolution. Otherwise, millions would have starved to death in this country in mid-60s when there was a back-to-back drought. Now, those seeds came from outside the country. Green Revolution, we feel proud of, but that was not really ours. The wheat seeds came from Mexico, and you must have heard the name of Norman Borlaug. He saved millions of lives around the world through that seed, yielding variety of wheat. And when the Nobel Committee met, they don't have a Nobel Prize for agriculture, so they gave him Nobel Prize for peace, because through this peace he has saved millions of lives. Professor M.S. Swaminathan, who was the instrument in a way and a big facilitator of bringing those seeds in the country and indigenizing those seeds, adaptation to the local climate. Later on was given the World Food Prize. World Food Prize was started off by Norman Borlaug because there was nothing on agriculture as such, which is considered to be something equivalent to Nobel Prize in other sciences. The World Food Prize is considered to be in agriculture. So these two scientists we know. But besides wheat, the import of which was 18,000 tons from Mexico, which changed and triggered the Green Revolution, and within 3-4 years we became from a hugely deficit to a self-sufficient in staples. There was also something else that we imported, and that is the seed of rice, yielding variety of rice, IR8. How many of us know who was the inventor or the innovator of that rice seeds? Anyone in the room? And today we are the largest exporter of rice. Last year we exported 21 million tons of rice in a global market of 51-52 million tons. So 40% of the global exports of rice are by India. And we don't know who laid the foundation for that. Isn't it a tragedy? Henry Bishel and Gurdev Ghosh, an Indian, both got World Food Prizes. And they were both working in International Rice Research Institute in Los Banos in Philippines. Those yielding varieties of rice came, and today we are the largest exporter of rice because of those two scientists. Henry Bishel was an American, so was Norman Borlaug for wheat. We know about wheat. M.S. Swaminathan we have heard, but we have not heard Gurdev Ghosh. Have we paid our dues to him? We must know that. The White Revolution, we have heard about that. I'm not sure whether everybody is aware of the White Revolution. the milk, Dr. Kurian, Varghese Kurian. Now, what was that revolution about? It was not technology. It was the Seemant Krishak, bringing them together. It was an institutional innovation, and which nobody had dreamt that these people with one cow or two cows or one buffalo here or two buffaloes here can ever be, agents of change in this country. They were always looked at, oh, these are marginalized people, they need only doles and charity and subsidies. But he said, no, I'm going to create a business model out of this with the bottom of the pyramid. No major technology was introduced. Only thing was trust amongst those people, and the main instrument of that trust was the lactometer. The Kisan brings 1 liter, 2 liter, 3 liters of surplus milk. It is tested right in front of him or her, and immediately it tells you how much is the fat content, how much is the SNF, and accordingly the price of that is decided. It's a very simple machine. And that brought the trust of the farmers, and millions came together. And what a wonder they have done. And that is the topic on which I want to focus. What Seemant Kisan can do. And just a glimpse of what they have done already is this. In 1951, India's milk production was only 17 million tons, 17. And US, the top producer, was at 53 million tons. When I grew up, I was in school and college. We had to stand in the queue for 2 hours, 3 hours to get 2 liters of milk. There was so much of shortage of milk in this country in late 60s and early 70s. And then the Operation Flood was started by Kurian. And today, what is the story? US milk production is at 102 million tons, 102, about. It hovers 1 million here or there. 102 million tons. What is India's milk production? Any guess? 221. 221. And US is lagging behind at 102, which was 3 times ahead of us. And today we are more than double of US. Look at this. And it is all done by these Seemant Kisans. Because there are hardly any, sheds with 200 cows or like the US model or the European model or the Brazilian model. No. Our model is on an average 4 animals in the backyard. And they are fed as a part of the family. 70% of the workers who take care of these animals are women. Because at home, it is women who feeds you and me and also feeds the animal as a part of the family. So if we could do this wonder in milk, that 1 hectare is more than sufficient. You know how much space 4 animals take in the backyard? It's only this space. And if they can do this, it is a force. The small twigs of a tree, you can easily bend and throw. This is the story that we learned when we were in school. But when they come together, they are a force of change. So the real connect that you are talking about, the tech connect, I would say also institutional connect. Tech in an institutional environment, in an institutional ecosystem that shares prosperity. This is the wonder which can give us extremely good results. Anything that we want to do. Now, my friend Sanjeev was talking about forum of enterprises, and it is Bazaar, Samaj and Sarkar, perhaps that's your slogan. So it's good to see that. But much of the government thinking, and Samuel is not here, he said three issues: sustainability, inclusiveness, climate change, and the answer lies in technology. Yes, technology is critical, and I gave examples of that. I can give even more examples of that. But there is one critical thing that in our entire thinking and policy making is missing. And that needs to be put first. I would strongly urge anyone who is interested in the small farmers business and how to make that business a success must read Kurian's book. It is narrated by Kurian, written by a young lady, I'm forgetting her name, but the title of the book is I Too Had a Dream. That's the name of the book. And Kurian narrates how he has done this in this entire thing. Now, one thing to be noted there is this. He said bringing farmers together and giving them technology is the easier part of the game. They can increase production. There's no doubt about that. What is the most difficult part? And he says, and it's almost in inverted commas I'm saying, in my early life in this, I learned capturing market is the most difficult part and the most important part. And this is where the problem of our policies lie. All our policies, or most of our policies in the government, are based on a legacy of 1960s and 70s of shortages. So everything is geared towards increased production, which is fine. But today we are not in 1960s. When you go to a banker for any business model, he will say, okay, you want to produce this is a new product. Where is the market for this? He looks first at the market and only then approves your project. Now that culture has not come yet in our policy making. We want to produce more. Sustainability is coming into that production because we have depleted our water table and damaged our soils and air. Less we talk about it, better it is in Delhi. You know, the AQI index, even today, if you look at it, perhaps you start skipping a breath, you know. And the University of Chicago has come up with a report that all those living in NCR, they are losing their life expectancy by as much as 10 years. 10 years. We are losing our life expectancy by living in Delhi and NCR. This is University of Chicago report. I mean, amongst all G20 countries, our AQI, air quality index of Delhi, is massively high. And we don't realize how much damage it is doing to our lungs. So what I'm saying is land, water, air, we are all damaged in the pursuit of something. Now, what is this growth for if our life expectancy is being impacted so adversely? Okay, let me give a final thoughts on this. Only one or two thoughts I'll give, particularly for the Seemant. Dairy is one. In, you know, Seemant Kisan are those which are less than 1 hectare, right? Although globally the definition of small farmers is actually anyone less than 10 hectares. Less than 10 hectares. That is the WTO definition of a small farmer. In our country, almost 98% are less than 10 hectares, right? But our definition is marginal less than 1 hectare, and small 1 to 2 hectares. So anyone below 2 hectares is marginal and small. And they constitute together about 86-87% of the total Kisan in this country. Now, 2-3 statements I want to make and then give an example where we need to head. Average holding size in India is 1.08 hectares as per the 2015-16 land census. So, on an average, Indian agriculture is almost Seemant, right? China, average holding size is smaller than ours. When I started working on China about 20 years back, the average holding size was 0.46 hectare. But then the off-farm development took place and millions moved out of agriculture to construction. Beijing and Shanghai were constructed by agricultural laborers, basically. And then when people start leaving agriculture, then the remaining ones, their holding size increases. So today, it's about 0.9. So average holding size in China is going up. In India, it is still coming down. All the way, if you look at in 1971, it was 2.3, and now it is 1.08, and it is continuously declining. That means our off-farm development has not been able to take the labor of agriculture into other things. At the end of the round, people need to be educated to go for higher productivity jobs. The skill formation has to take place, and research has to take place, and education has to take place. Unless that happens, you cannot increase the income of those people. But China, with a smaller holding size than India and lesser agricultural area than India, they have a less cultivated area than India, produces more than double of agriculture produced than India. And there are two things. One is access to technology. The other, which is not talked here, is access to markets. They are both two sides of the same coin. So Anish and Bhaskar, if they are getting into this, I was happy to see they have put Bazaar first. Bazaar, Samaj and Sarkar. You will not need Sarkar actually. If it is enterprises, you can create a business model. And in Korean, I always said, Sarkar at a safe distance. Because the more interference comes, then politics emerges and all that happens. Today, the fastest growing sector within agriculture over the last 10 years, 2010-11 to, let us say, pre-COVID 19-20, which is the sector that has the highest rate of growth. Imagine, within agriculture. It is poultry growing at 10.4% per annum. How much is Sarkar there? And if you have 1 acre of land, not 1 hectare, that is sufficient to have a poultry farm. Right? And the income will be 3 times or 4 times more through that poultry farm than what is growing rice or any millet or whatever else, crop sector. So if you want Seemant Krishak to be Samridh Krishak, then one thing that you need to do, they have limited land, but that land needs more capital, access to finance at reasonable rate of interest. Okay? Without that, the game will not start. The problem that is happening in the Seemant Kisan is when he wants to borrow, the banks may give crop loans at 7% and 4%, but he wants to store it He has to go to microfinance institutions, and the rates of interest are 22%, 23%, 24%. How can you make a business with 24% interest rate? So access to finance for the Seemant Kisan, and this is where the job of aggregation into FPOs or FPCs and your intervention and linkage connect with the bank, that we take the responsibility or we underwrite if there are defaults, some sort of a guarantee, and you can keep a fund for that, then the ball will start not just rolling but running very fast. Their incomes not only can be doubled, they can be tripled easily 4 times. It can be dairy, it can be poultry, it can be horticulture. An acre of grapes and an acre of sorghum are 2 different animals, right? But before you produce grapes, you have to think where the market is. How are you going to aggregate? How are you going to package? How are you going to ensure that there is no pesticide residue, and so on and so forth? But it will also need more capital investment on that land of 1 acre. And that is where access to finance is the most critical part, and banks need to be brought in. The last thought, which I have been discussing with Bhaskar and also with many policymakers right now, how to convert. We say our Kisan is Annadata. We want to make Annadata also Urja Data. And that is linked to your sustainability and clean green energy. I did a global review on this issue. I wrote a few op-eds, and then the Delhi government, the Lieutenant Governor, picked up that, and he said, let's test this idea. So in a KVK in Ujwa, you have the solar panels which are 4 meters high, 12 feet. With some spacing. Actually, Jan Irrigation is here that was doing that type of experiment earlier also. But I did a global review of this, what is happening in China or what is happening in Japan or in. So there is a paper, those who are interested, on the ICRIER website as well as on University of Bonn. I happen to be a visiting senior fellow there. So we did that paper. But after that, I did more research. And in Ujwa, they have done a pilot. Just 2 kilometers from that, another person took up that idea. What is, you have spacing and a little higher height, and this is the inclusive model. Right now, you have solar parks, which the big industrialists are setting up. Their height is only 3 feet, right? They may generate electricity very competitively at competitive rates, but that land is gone for 25 years. Nothing else can be done. What we are talking is solar as a third crop, with that height and spacing so that sunlight can come and there is photosynthesis of the crops below. The farmer can keep producing 2 crops a year. And this is the third crop at the top, which will continuously generate electricity, which can be fed into the grid. 2 kilometers from Ujwa pilot, there is a company that has a young person like you who has started off on 4 acres, a big thing, and he is paying to the farmer 1.25 lakhs a year as a rent on his land per acre, 1.25 lakhs. And you keep on doing your cultivation, right? So this is a blend of agriculture and solar energy. What we want is, okay, let the big capitalist players keep on doing what they are doing, but we want to make an inclusive model. And this inclusive model will double their income within 6 months of setting up this. Annadata becomes also Urjadata. This is an inclusive model. This will ensure sustainability of the system. It will double farmers' income. The challenge is how to aggregate them together, how to bring them together, and then bring enterprises which can set up that. It is not farmer investing. Somebody else is investing actually on his land. Only thing he has to sign is for 25 years, he will not approve those solar trees. Right? If he can participate in equity, wonderful, then he can get a better share. And then the last idea in this is this pilot, I'm committing myself for the next 3 years to scale up this in 3 states of India. I would like to see this as a part of priority sector lending. Because access to finance is key for the farmer. Then he can become an entrepreneur. Okay? So if you want to really create a success story of feed, these are the few thoughts I can put on the table. I hope it helps you. I'm an academic, but I'm trying to get on the ground for showing some pilots it can be done. Thank you very much.